cheer for your Sydney Swans.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. You're joined as always by, this time, just the one boy from Sydney. I'm Chris, and this week we have a crazy, irrational Bris Vegas Lions fan. Welcome to the potty, Egg Footy. Egg, mate, welcome to the potty.
Man, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited. I really appreciate it.
No worries, man. Look, I know you from the wicked videos you do on YouTube. How would you describe your style of video humor? Like, it's hard for me to describe, so I'll pass it over to you.
But good question. Like I struggle to define it myself. The best way I could describe it, probably like young people humor, Gen Z humor. Very reliant on like memes and stuff like that to articulate a point I'm trying to make about a certain team's performance or stuff that's happening in the league. And yeah, I basically combine it all into one big video about a round of footy, and then in the off season, I do my long form documentary type videos about certain topics and try to keep the same energy going. But yeah, it's the reason why like I'm so shocked about the success that my channel has gotten, because like it seems a bit like it seems quite niche.
Yeah.
I thought like it would be pretty small fan base. Like I feel like my ceiling would be like give or take about 2,000 subs on YouTube, and I'm one upload away from hitting 10k now, which is fucking nuts. And yeah, it's been a surreal but really enjoyable experience for me so far, and like it enables me to get to meet people and do stuff like appear on other people's podcasts and get myself out of my bubble, so to speak.
It's pretty unique. So for everyone at home, I'm just going to try to quickly describe an example of it. Firstly, the intro is hilarious. Every time that kid gets clocked with the footy behind the goals, I lose my mind. I giggle every single time. It's brilliant. But it's just like there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of memes. There's like references to like Family Guy. You're a massive Simpsons fan. SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
There's always random elements of everything. And I've noticed recently that there's a bit of a theme. There's other, I guess, fans of yours that are kind of taking that and then run with it.
Yeah.
And now there's other people doing similar kind of meme-ish reviews of the game or like interpretations of how the game went. It's freaking funny as hell.
Yeah, man, it's bizarre. Not to blow smoke up my own ass, but like I feel like I've almost created like a new little subgenre of AFL.
Seriously,
YouTube.
yeah.
Like,
yeah, seriously. Yeah.
One of my best mates, his name's Sharks Ray. I call him Liam. He's based in Perth, and he's a massive Swans fan as well. He started his own Egg Footy series as well, directly because of me, and that's been really cool to see. He's gotten past like 500 subs in like a month, which is pretty good. Like that's faster than I was when I first started. And occasionally I get people who like submit clips into the Discord to use in my videos, like a fan submission type of deal, which is cool because like it's cool because like they're like putting themselves out there to put themselves in my videos, which like that takes a lot for the average person. And also it helps me, it less workload for me as well. So, win-win.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're doing half your job, or at least one game of the job, right? For you. So like, why not? I saw there's a Hawks crew that's doing it as well. I'm surprised there's not a podcast called Hawk Tour yet, but that's just probably a matter of days from happening at this point, if not already. But yeah, man, it's funny as hell, dude. But I really actually want to hear this to talk about the big game this weekend, right? So like Lions, Swans, I mean, taking very different trajectories towards the final season. Tell me, you're, as you've listed, an irrational Lions fan. What does that look like? How did you get into becoming a big Lions fan?
Well, for me, I remember the exact game, the exact year. It was round 19, 2009. It was Brisbane, Port Adelaide at the Gabba, and we came back from like 40 points down or something like that to win. And since then, I was hooked. Um, excuse me. We had that big final series against Carlton, that big finals win, and that really set me up with some big expectations. And then we didn't make another final for the next 10 years, so
It floundered for a bit.
it was quite rough.
Mm.
Sydney were always a team that I supported in the background when the Lions were no good. They were my finals team, because I've got a big family history of AFL in Sydney. I can touch on that a bit more later, but yeah, eventually the Lions have started coming good. I got to see the Lions play a final for the first time in 2019, the Richmond qualifying final, which didn't end up that good, but it was just cool to see. And then I didn't see a finals win in person until 2022 against the Tigers at the Gabba. I was at the Bulldogs elimination final. I was at the Geelong prelim in 2020. And then we finally got that win against Richmond at the Gabba, which was um, my greatest footy moment. Aside from the miracle on grass, I was there for that as well. Um, and yeah, I went to the grand final last year as well, which was a great weekend. Aside from us losing, but you know that yeah, I was just happy to
Yeah,
see us there,
I
man.
know how you feel, mate. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did you grow up in Brisbane?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been
Right.
born and bred. My family moved up from New South Wales. My old man's from the Bateau Bay area, and my mum is from Bankstown, that area. I've got a lot of family who live in. My family was based in like Western Sydney, Milpera for ages, and now everyone started moving away. Everybody's getting engaged and married and stuff like that. Um,
Disappearing into realizing you can't buy in Sydney. We're all pissing off. I'm in Wollongong at the moment, so I'm halfway there, mate.
yeah. My poppy is up in I'm not sure if it's up or down in Port Stephens.
Up
He's
north. Yeah.
yeah, massive Swans man. He went to their first game in Sydney when they moved from South Melbourne. He's been supporting them ever since. Yeah, massive Swans guy. Watches all their games. Watches everything. He's a big fanatic. I've had conversations with him on the phone talking about footy for literal hours. And that's kind of how that contributed massively to like becoming like obsessed with footy, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Is it a bit of a East Coast, like me personally, the way that I set my team's fandom and hierarchy? It goes obviously the Swans, then it goes basically anyone on the East Coast that's not Victoria. Then it heads over to Adelaide, then to Perth, and then all the Victorian teams. So I've got a soft spot and have done for Brisbane for as long as I've been following football. Just given they were the other East Coast non-major location team, and I wanted to see AFL take over from NRL as you probably know all about there in Brizzy. Is it the same with you? Do you have that same kind of hierarchy, or how does it work for you? Or is it just the old man and the family connections out to the Swans kind of give you a bit of love that way?
Well, I'm sort of in the same boat as you, bro. Like I love seeing an in-state team do well. Massive soft spot, like predominantly East Coast as well. Like Brizzy, Gold Coast, Giants, Swans. I know we're technically supposed to be rivals with the Gold Coast, but like
Same here, same here. Yeah, I'm
I
soft
want
with the GWS Suns. Yeah.
yeah, I want to see them do well, and make finals and all that stuff. And West Coast and Adelaide, I have massive soft spots for as well. Port Adelaide and Fremantle, I'm kind of eh.
Yep.
And then
Next one down.
I've
Yep.
even a few Victorian teams. Like I don't mind. Like I want to see North Melbourne do well. I want to see. I I used to hate Geelong with a passion. Now I've sort of come around on them. They're not. I don't mind them as much. Maybe because like they've won a flag and then pissed off and for a bit. It
A
took
little bit
them.
anyway.
It
Yeah,
took
yeah.
them. Yeah, it took them winning a flag for me to like sort of like soften on them. One bad
Yeah.
year, I guess. But yeah, it's I, as long as it's not the big three, of Carlton, Essendon, and Collingwood doing well. Like that's fine by me, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, the North is for me the team I really do not enjoy. I hope they collapse purely because I was at Goodsy's last game and I saw those fans booing him, and
Uh,
it's embedded into my memory and I would never forget.
yeah,
And so there's something in me that just actively hopes that they just collapse as an organization. That's just me. That's just me. And then I watched them play pretty decent footy up until last week when we ran over them. But they've been doing all right. They got a good team. Their rebuild's going a lot faster than people give them credit for.
yeah.
But either way, I'll happily watch them their demise if I can.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I understand that though, because like that's yeah, Goodsy was I loved watching Goodsy when I was younger. He was a phenomenon. And yeah, it sucked how he went out. So like I get where you're coming from for sure. He deserved better than that.
He did. Yeah. Anyway, I still haven't watched that documentary. I really can't bring myself to do it. Like I will.
Yeah.
I will get really mad, I think, and so I'm kind of holding that myself on. And one day when I'm by myself with a couple of scotches, I'll watch it and just scream at the TV for a couple of hours. It's all good. All right, look, the season, like it started off rough for the Lions, pretty brutal, but you're coming around. So tell me the emotions of the up and down season. How's it going?
It's been a bizarre fucking year, eh? Like
Man.
we started off like in the preseason as the flag favorites. I was listening to Chris Fagan on the what podcast was it? The Raw Deal. And listening to him talk about the preseason and how the boys were looking, and those first 2.5 quarters against Carlton, and like everything's all sweet, and then Kitty Coleman did his ACL and it fell apart for about 2 and a bit months. I looked on the website the other day. We have about 5 active ACL or knee injuries, and that's McCarthy, Gardner, Coleman, Duday, and uh, one of our VFL boys, and then Ashcroft as well coming back this year. So like at one point we had 6 active knee injuries on the roster, which is just fucking nuts.
It's dirty.
And
Yep.
yeah, and then like we started coming good slowly but surely, winning 6 in a row, and all of a sudden we're in the top 4. Like it just feels like it's come out of nowhere. It's been a really surreal, bizarre fucking season, but yeah, like we're starting to show some form, and like hopefully we play finals this year. Anything can happen in the last 6 weeks. And even though I feel confident we'll play finals this year, like just I'm keeping an open mind because like I've been through too much this year. Like the last time I had expectations, Kitty Coleman did his ACL, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, seriously. I remember that, and I was just like, he's such a core player. He's so good, and he's just
Yeah.
really hitting like the best form of his life. Like it just keeps getting better, and you're like, brilliant. It's gonna. And I was like pumping him up, and I was watching the game live, and I was like, oh, this he's gonna be the best. What? He's gone down already, and then that was it. He's yeah, such a massive hole. You do have some pretty like incredible setups there, like though. So like, all right. So let's just get started in this one. I guess this is probably the most important point of anything. Charlie Cameron, 3 weeks for that tackle. Now, it's no secret that I think the Heaney one was the dirtiest thing in the world. Now he's not going to opportunity for the Brownlow, and I think that's the dirtiest thing you could have done for that mistake, really, and just throwing arm and just something happens. And now they just decided this week to just change the concept of what a tackle is in AFL, and then they've just forced it upon a couple of players, and Charlie being one of them. Go, mate. How dirty are you? How angry are you? Go for it.
It. I hesitate to say what I actually feel because it's pretty violent, but like it looked like a normal tackle, and then it just looked like old mate was, I believe Liam Duggan. He was just unlucky to get concussed. Like it was a footy act gone wrong, and now Charlie's been rubbed out for 3 weeks in a pivotal part of the season for us, and the same with Toby Bedford as well. I hope that's his actual name. I know his surname, but yeah,
Toby Bedford.
Toby Bedford. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. I read today that the Lions are going to go further with the appeals board, as are the Giants. I hope that it works out for them because it's If players from the team where the player got concussed in the West Coast Eagles, if players from the West Coast Eagles are coming out to criticize the decision to ban Charlie, like something's gone horribly
Something's wrong.
you know, like even they're like, what the fuck, you know,
Yeah.
like, and like
There's no many people saying that that's a fair go. Like I can't see a single legitimate footy head and commentator or presenter of a podcast that is suggesting that that's worth anything close to 3 weeks.
I've seen one, and that's
cool.
John Ralph on Twitter this morning. He came out with a thing.
That guy.
Yeah, he's come out with a thing saying, well, it's for the greater good if these guys get suspended. And it's like, well, how many players have we saved from concussion by banning 2 players who have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time? How many concussions are we saving? How many retired AFL players' lives are we saving by banning people for footy acts gone wrong? Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It's damage done, and it's like the whole point about like in the back and everything. We can understand where they're heading with it. Excuse me. I could see where they were heading with this. Obviously, they went through a phase of protecting their head, and then that just went wayward, where someone remotely touched someone in the shoulder, whistle went up, and then they basically always go overboard whenever they make a decision, and then there's a bunch of people pay the price. Fans lose their absolute mind. Every commentator and everything has something to say. And then they always say the same thing. They say like, no, we've adjudicated this correctly. And then fast forward 4 weeks, all of the stuff just disappears. They have a different interpretation of what it looks like. And I predict it's going to be the same thing here.
Yeah, well, I found what John Ralph actually said on Twitter. He said, and I quote, "Lots of outrage over suspensions. There seems to be less concern. We are medically retiring players from concussion at a rate of 1 every 5 rounds this year. O'Driscoll, Brayshaw, Murphy, Carmichael. Tackling isn't dead. It's never been more on trend. But very, very rarely, 7 times this year among 10,000 tackles, a player will be suspended after a pinned arm tackle results in concussion. That is the price of doing business in this legal climate. And to protect players' brains, another lawsuit dropped literally days ago. It's tough on Bedford and Cameron, but it's an extremely small price to pay to keep playing the best game in the world." And I wrote back saying basically like that. Like, players are still going to get concussed. People are still going to suffer with late-term CTE. Like, players who have already been concussed, players who have already been medically retired, like, that's not going to undo that damage. Like, it's just the exact opposite. It's just not the way at all. And like, it's just obvious to me, like, the AFL is overreacting from legal pressure. And on that note, like, by that logic, Patrick Dangerfield a few weeks ago should have gotten suspended as well, but he didn't. So it's like, it's just, if they were consistent, that's one thing, but like, they're not. They're inconsistent and they're playing favorites, and it's just, yeah, they've created this mess, and I don't really trust them to clean it up.
Fix it too quickly.
Yeah.
The stand the rule, Mark. I think that rule, the standing the mark rule, that came in, was it last year before? God.
2021, I believe.
2021. Well, Jesus, it's been some time.
I think.
But at the beginning, when they had that in, it was always like a guy would be standing there, just as an example of like their headstrong ways, where a guy would be standing there, would lose a bit of balance, would move a foot to the left by like a centimeter, and that's 50 meters. And you're like, that's not in the rule. That's not what they're trying to gauge out of the rule. We understand what they're trying to do, and they're just taking the letter of the law and they're sticking to it, and they just end up frustrating everyone along the way because they're just changing the rules on us. I know they're going to change the rules every year. I'm expecting them to change the rules every year. What I don't expect them to do is change the interpretation of the rules every single week or game to game. The inconsistency is the thing that just does my head in. And Charlie Cameron has just been the firing line. Heaney's on the firing line. Toby's in the firing line. And in the meantime, you got blokes just punching guys in their head like Hogan. No worries, let him off. It's all good. It's like, what the fuck are we trying to do here? So it just bothers me so much. And I mean, don't get me wrong, as a Swans fan, fine, Charlie's out. That does everyone a favour for me, on our side. But you want the best team to play. You don't want the game to go where it's heading, which is just where it already is, I guess, arguably. It's just an inconsistent mess where no fan really knows what any one tackle is given or not. No idea.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, you know, like, you don't see these you don't see this happen in the NBA. You don't see this happen in the NFL. Like, if we want to be taken seriously as a professional organization and attract global fans and like continue to grow the game in places like New South Wales and Northern Territory and Queensland, far in deep rugby league territory in Queensland in particular, like we need to stamp this shit out because it's becoming a joke.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with you, man. I think it's just that if you got all the fans, like the amount of fans, I mean, this happens all the time, granted. Like people just like, I'm never going to a footy game again. I'm never going to watch a footy. What's his face? Old mate. God, I can't believe I forgotten his name. Maybe it's a good thing. North Kangaroos.
Wayne Carey.
Wayne Carey, thank
Yeah.
you. I was going to say the guy who shagged someone else's. He dead said, which is like, I'm not going to watch a game until this thing's stamped up, and then or say anything, and then like 3 days later he's messaging, not doing any favors. But it's not good for the sport when people like us are just focused on that. We've already spent probably about 5 minutes talking about this when there's a game going on. But I think that's the distraction that it causes. That we are a perfect example of just the bullshit it creates. We're not talking about the game, or we should be talking about the game, not the effect of some tackle.
Exactly. Yeah. You're just taken away from, like, John Ralph in his tweet talked about playing the best sport in the world. You're making the best sport in the world look like a sham, and you're taken away from the best sport in the world. Like, we're not talking about the Giants return to form. We're not talking about Brisbane in the top four. We're not talking about West Coast's tremendous effort against Brisbane on the weekend. We're not talking about whoever the West Coast's interim coach is. We're not talking about him and his performance. We're talking about this nonsense at the tribunal. Like, it's overwhelmed everything.
The only people that are happy about it, the media, because they got something more to write. I think that's
exactly.
I have it, like, don't get me wrong. There's been opportunities on our podcast for me to put the tinfoil hat on, and every now and then I'll put it on, just have a fiddle. And this one is basically around the point of, I think this is actively sometimes done just to get people talking about it, just to kind of get the circles rolling, just to have to be the number one trending thing on Twitter for 5 days straight. I just can't see how anyone can get it that wrong, honestly, on a consistent basis without there being some kind of underlying reason for it. I don't know. That's my last thing I'm going to say about that. I don't know how you feel about this.
Yeah, you might be onto something. I don't know. Like, it boggles my mind sometimes. Like, yeah, I think back to Cripps winning his Brownlow in 2022 after decapitating Calamachi at the Gabba, and that was fresh in my mind, in the minds of other people as well. Evidently, when Heaney got suspended, and it's flat out obvious he got off so he could win a Brownlow, and like if it was Nick Dacos, who knows? Like,
there's no way he's serving any time off.
No,
there's absolutely
exactly,
no way. Yeah. All right. Well, we best move on to the actual game. So, as much as it hurts, if Charlie's out, who do you see coming into the field, into the ground? Sorry.
Potentially. Well, it depends on like who can play where. Maybe somebody, because we've already got like Kai Lohmann in there as another great option for a small forward. I think we'll keep Shadow Brain in this time. I think it's true. Who was our sub? I should have looked at this before engaging in this conversation with you. But I think our sub will start as somebody on the bench, perhaps. Let me see.
Here's a question for you quickly. Devon Robertson, the man with the rig, got his shirt ripped off and proceeded to play half of football without it.
I was there for that game.
A lot of people were quite happy, and no doubt his Instagram account was as well. How come he's not getting more game time? I kind of, us Swans fans and us in the Bevy kind of fancy him a little bit in a few more ways than one, and we thought maybe he could have a role to play, kind of that hard tackling, just a bit of a heart down gets around.
I was about to say Dev Robertson. I found it's Bruce who was our sub last week.
Okay.
He's definitely starting on. I think him. I would love to see Robertson come in. Dev. He hasn't had a lot of game time this year. I think just because there's too much competition in the midfield. Like Lockie Neal's having a fantastic year. Ashcroft's coming back super strong. Berry's been phenomenal this year. McCluggage has becoming an absolute star. You know, like there's just like our team. Like where do you stick him? Like there's nobody who's been really kind of trash in the midfield. Even Dunkley and Rayner, Zach Bailey. Zach Bailey's kind of had a few quiet weeks, but even then, like he's still contributing. He's still making an impact. Dev Robertson, it's really tough because like he's a starter any other footy club in the competition, I reckon. Just with us, like it's just unfortunately there's nowhere to stick him.
We would have that problem, albeit with a guy called Angus Sheldrick, the Gus Bus, the Beef as we call him.
Yeah,
he would be that kind of role where he'd be behind a few players, and it'd be really concerning to be like, oh no, he's a flight risk because he's really good. We can see he's got star talent, but he's just not getting game time, and he wouldn't have got that much game time just given the way we're running. In a weird way, he's injured, so it kind of is less of a flight risk.
Yeah,
I kind of feel. Do you reckon Devin Robertson maybe has a look around?
He was out of contract last year, but he played in the grand final with a broken wrist and then re-signed after that, and it's disappointing for him. I'm gutted for him because he was linked to West Coast for a little bit, and I reckon he'd be a guy like that would be perfect for them. You know, ideally we'd like to keep him, but you know he's in his prime, and I'd rather see him tearing it up in the AFL than just rotting in the VFL during like the most valuable years of his career.
Yeah, well, he might end up being that finals focus that guy you need when it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
Bruce Breville, like he is a fan favorite. What is it about his energy? Because as soon as you see him on telly, he gets remotely close to the ball. Lions fans are going bonkers. I love the sound of it. But what is it about his energy? Apart from his hair, I love his hair, but I don't know too much more about him. Tell me.
In my time following the Brisbane Lions, I don't think I've ever seen a player come in and within the first few games immediately like just capture from debut, not like he came from another footy club with an established profile. Like he's come in as a new recruit and he's just completely captured the fan base and had such an impact as well in his first year. Especially like I was there for the Melbourne game a few weeks ago where we won by 5 points, and him and young Ashcroft and Morris were huge that game. And to see him have such an impact in games like that is crazy. He's a really special talent, and I'm really glad we have him at the footy club. Like the culture that we built when Chris Fagan came in as coach in 2017, that culture was built off guys like Bruce Reville, and I think it's awesome that we're becoming a club that is able to attract guys like that who can really just like in a couple more years of development and a little bit more experience, especially hopefully experience playing finals footy, which is invaluable to a player that young and that early in his career. Hopefully when he starts to get into his like prime as a player, like he can really tear up the league.
A special guy coming on, no doubt. I see it, and I just love it when teams have like an absolute favorite when they make the noises around them and stuff. I think it's just superb. Like we had Buddy for a long time. Obviously, it's very, very different to what we're talking about with Reveal. But as soon as he got near the ball, you can feel the anticipation of the crowd, just kind of like breathing in and just watching something probably cool is going to happen. What got to watch him so many times. And as soon as Bruce gets near the ball, you hear the boo, or everyone gets it off, and he's doing just something simple, but he's just doing the right things. He's laying that 1%er, or he's just paddling the ball in the right direction, or just putting the ball. He's just doing smart things with the footy, around the footy, and I think the Brisbane Lions fans are just all over it. They just absolutely adore the guy.
Yeah, he's tremendous. He has such great footy IQ, and he has such great composure for a young player. Like it's so good to see him do his thing. Like it's a real pleasure.
Now, to the game itself, I was going to ask you for Lions, and then the same thing of the Swans. Who do you think is the biggest danger player for either team that could probably, maybe potentially blow the game open?
In his current form for Brisbane, probably Lachie Neale. Like he looks on track for a third Brownlow, which is insane. Like he's just like he had a bit of a slowish start to the year, and that enabled McCluggage to really like establish himself, which was cool to see. But Lockie's sort of just exploded out of nowhere again, and he's been superb in the second half of the year. If I'm not sure who on the Swans would tag Lockie Neal, but they're gonna have their work cut out for them this Sunday, I think.
He's an absolute unit. He's a hard guy to bloody well tag.
Yeah.
Unless you punch him square in the stomach like Pendlebury does, but that's a different story altogether with, right? Talking about weird weird concepts when you're coming around to MRO.
Yeah. And in terms of Sydney, I think your most dangerous player would probably be Heaney or Grundy. You know, Grundy's gonna probably he's a better ruckman. I love Oscar to pieces, but he's a better ruckman than Oscar McInerney, I think. He's going to be the difference, I think, in the midfield. Also, I think probably Heaney as well. Just like, you know, he's coming off his suspension. He's just lost his Brownlow. You know, like he's gonna be fired up. You know, like he's gonna be looking to cause some damage now. Because you know he's got nothing left to lose, especially like he's lost his Brownlow. He's coming off a week suspension where he was pretty stiff. You know, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how Brisbane respond to that.
All right, follow-up question, and it might be a tough one. Who do you think is the most overrated player from both sides? Who do you think is teetering on? Probably shouldn't be in there.
Shit.
That's a tough question, and like it's a hard one to throw a chat out of nowhere.
Man, at the moment, I think the only people who I see in Brisbane's team who are kind of struggling a bit, maybe they're not overrated, but maybe McKenna or Bailey, two guys who have kind of in a bit of a slump, even though like their potential and their standard is usually superb. For whatever reason, the last couple of weeks they've kind of struggled a little bit, and you know, hopefully they get back on track. But yeah, just at the moment it's just not working out for them for whatever reason. In terms of Sydney, fuck, it's tough.
It's a tough one. It's a pretty mean one to throw at you too, because it's not like you watch too many Sydney games, although I'm sure you do watch a fair few, but not.
Well,
like
I try to watch what I can. Yeah, I missed last week against North Melbourne because I was actually playing during the game down at Wynnum. I was playing a game of footy, so I didn't get to see that, unfortunately. But yeah, has Taylor Adams been alright this year, or has he been?
It's funny with Taylor Adams. It's really interesting you say that, because there's Wixie is that role, and before that we had Bell, and before that we had Ronk. That small pressure forward, which is kind of arguably what Taylor Adams is kind of playing, just this kind of like marauding around the kind of forward half, just kind of doing things. People look at his numbers and they're just like, oh, the guy's not touching the footy, or he's not doing this, he's not doing that. But then if you watch the game, he does very little clever things, putting the right amount of pressure on things. You know, he might be in a 2-on-1 and he just might be him by himself on two different guys, but he might put enough pressure on both of them to make them just take a step back or something for the rest of the cavalry to turn up. So although, yeah, you'd probably argue that him on numbers has not been great, but when you watch him play, you're like, yeah, this guy is proper class footballer, like really clever footballer. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if plenty of fans, even Swans fans in particular, because I've seen around the traps, probably suggest that he's one of the guys who's not really done the right thing, but he's been really good. But then if it's between him and Parker, you're going to take Parker, like especially what he did the other day. So yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah, because like that's the only, because like you haven't really heard much of Taylor Adams since he came from the Pies. Like he had a really controversial, well, not really controversial, he just left, exit from Collingwood after the grand final, and now he's just, you don't really see him that much. I know he had an injury earlier in the year, but other than that, like you haven't really seen it a lot. It's like that's kind of got me thinking, like, well, is he underperforming? But yeah, like maybe he's just one of these players who does like stuff in the background quite well. We certainly have a few of them, and for example, guys like Hipwood, Archie, to a lesser extent Froggy Lester, guys who like do their role really well but don't get the accolades that they kind of deserve. Lester not as much, like he has a really dedicated following, in the supporter base. But yeah, d- it's tough. It's a tough question though, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. I feel bad for saying it, but I mean,
No, you're good, bro.
if not the egg, if not, he's not going to know the egg will. The From our side, it might be like a Brendan Campbell for us would probably be one that people might say he's the first guy to kind of drop off in order to take advantage of some of the other players coming in, like Cunners, Foxy that kind of does a bit of everything, and now Parker's got opportunity. But with him, even like you can see how much talent he has. He works incredibly hard. He's a hard runner. He's got a great boot on him. He's a clever footballer. I think he just needed more time on the ground, and he's getting a bit more of it with Matty Roberts having a bit of a stint off. And yeah, started slowly coming into his own, but a bit of confidence play, I think, with him as well. So he's another one that the Swans fans probably I don't know, I wouldn't say cold on. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'd just say that he's probably one of the next ones to kind of like he's the next guy to drop off. But when you look at the side that's winning as consistently as we are, with the young pieces of the puzzle that we are, it's really tricky to kind of suggest that anyone's not doing their role because they're obviously playing the game. So it's a bit of a big one. To you now, the season is coming towards the end. Finals is lurking around the corner, another month and a bit. What were your expectations at the beginning of the season? And well, let me start there. What were your expectations at the beginning of the season?
Well, immediately after the grand final, I was walking out of the MCG crying, and I'm like, we got to get back next year. We got to get back and win it. And like I couldn't wait for the season to start. And that carried through for the rest of the off season, pre-season, and for the first bit of opening round, and then a couple of weeks later we're in the bottom four, and I'm like, okay, like season's probably a write-off. We'll have our year off. We'll get Ashcroft back, get some games into him, get some games into our young fellas, get Levi next year in the draft, as long as they don't fuck up the father-son too much, which is what I've heard, which has me worried. And then we'll go next year to have a good red hot crack next year. And then now all of a sudden we've started winning games. We're back in the 8, and I'm like, okay, well let's get a few finals wins this year, get some experience, like some finals experience again into our young players, and just again like probably aim for 2025 as our year. And then now we're in the top 4. Like anything's possible. Just at the moment, no expectations. I just want to see us do as well as we can this year, and hopefully it's not like if we got to the grand final and we got like pumped by like 100 points or some shit, because like
or 80 for that matter. Don't bring it up. It's cool.
Like get pumped by like a Sydney or a Carlton who are probably in a bit better shape than us and a bit more have more key personnel at the disposal than we do, then like that'd be pretty rough. But like if we can have a good enough crack and get some finals wins and see where we go from there, then that might be okay with me.
I had you guys picked for like top 2, top 4. Was my impression at the beginning of the year. Carlton also being up there as well, and the Pies I thought they'd slide down, but not quite as far as it's been. But the season's been rough, man. Like so many teams, it's been mentioned a bunch of times, but like from 3rd place all the way down to like 13th, it's not much in it. It's just that kind of season, and it kind of feels like every season lately has been getting closer and closer and closer. It just goes to show that the competition's in a really good place. Whatever we're doing with the father sons, the academies, don't kill me, Eddie, idiot. The academy and everything, and what we're doing in Brizzy and stuff, pulling in players from all these other markets as well. Like it's working, and the competition outside of like not knowing what a tackle is in a really good place, right? That's my impression.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the game is in a really healthy spot, except for like the rule interpretations and the umpiring. I think like our player development is incredible. The competition's super even. It makes for really great viewing. It makes for really great, especially towards like the business end of the year, towards finals. Like you don't know what the hell's gonna happen, and yeah, like anything can happen, and that's really exciting to see. Like we just need to sort out the umpiring a bit, even if we make it a bit more automated, like FIFA, get some new technology in, something to that effect. Maybe make it a bit less.
Just get a fucking GoPro, like. Dude, I've got better resolution on my phone
Yeah.
sitting up in a Riley stand than these shit on cameras do. What is going on, man? Like we've trying to look like that the goal last year, where Keys kicked the behind / goal.
Yeah.
And it's still a question mark. It's not. Let's be fair. It was a goal,
Yeah.
but there's barely really solid footage to be like we are 100% definitive. Yes, it most likely 90% is a goal, and we're more than willing to suggest it is a goal. But there's missing anything. Like, why can't you just put a GoPro on the top of this damn thing and pointing down? We have the technology. It's like $550 at JB Hi-Fi. I don't understand what the AFL is trying to achieve with this. Is it that someone needs to get paid first? Like, is Sharon holding out and all this stuff? Does Eddie need to build himself a company that's going to take full advantage of this first? Is that how it works?
We need, with the goal umpiring cameras especially, like we need something that's like high resolution and high frame rate, so you can slow it down and like get like really clear footage of a ball. Like instead of like if it was like really low frame rate, it would be like slow mo. It would be like duh, 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 duh. So like it's no good. For me, it can't be that hard, I don't think. But the AFL have made it very difficult, which is almost impressive given what the the technology we have at our disposal these days. If we were talking in like 2010, 2011, then like different story. Like just we don't have the cameras, but we do. Like there isn't this shouldn't be still be a discussion, but lo and behold,
here we are.
Yeah.
It's something that despite us talking about it, this is the thing, it's just a talking point, right? So the next time it happens, it could be this week. The game on the weekend could be decided by this errant kick and no one really knows if it's a goal or not. And then we're going to talk about it for about 3 weeks and it just disappear. And if it happened to Collingwood, it'd be a totally different story. If it happened to Carlton, if Carlton lose out in the final because of it, it's a totally different story. I mean, like it was bad enough the Port one when they couldn't hear the siren some years ago as well. Like there's moments that happen that you're just like, oh yeah, it's really bad. Oh well, and then you just move on with it. Like it's just, no, we're too busy. It's like, dude, just write a list, get through it. Hire a high schooler with a bit of like knowledge, and they'll set up a camera for you. It'll be fine. Anyway, I've gone on my mouth. I get very angry about it. All right, mate. Predictions for this weekend. I'll pass over to you. What do you think? What's going to happen?
It's going to be a really hard game. It's going to be I think it's going to be really back and forth for most of the game up until potentially like halfway through the third quarter or at the start of the fourth. Either Brisbane or Sydney will run away with it. I hope. I always back my team in, regardless of who we're playing. But yeah, it could go either way. Honestly, like it could be a situation where Sydney just like brings us back to earth, or it could be a Brisbane turning the competition on its head type of day. Like we really don't know. Like it's really unpredictable. I do feel quietly confident though.
Okay, fair enough. Look, I'm the same. I think it's going to be the thing that scares me a little bit is the couple of teams that worked this out. Like Freo has played 2 games against us, should have won the first game if they could kick straight, and did win the second, of course. If we could have kicked straight, we also may win the game. But and then the Saints came in with the exact same style, and in different games throughout the season for about a quarter. Essendon did it. Carlton did it for a little bit there. Who else kind of had a great? Oh yeah, Richmond, of course. They all managed to just do a solid amount of pressure, apply to the right places and against the right personnel to just throw us off. And then we're really reliant on something like a backman, like a Lizard or something. But unless Lizard's like getting that extra chain on, there's only so much that he can impact the game. And he might have a couple of sprints through the middle, but that's all good. It's a highlight reel, but you can't win a game off the back of it entirely. You can't have that as the fallback. So I predict that Lions are going to kind of walk in there, start slamming that pressure in. It's going to be a tough day for the mids there, for all of them. Dunkley, Cluggage, Neil versus Rowie, Warner, Heaney. That's going to be fucking amazing.
That's going to be good. Yeah.
Amazing game. Yeah, 100%. All right, mate. So do you want to give a score? Because I'm not. You can if you want. I stopped doing that years ago when the Bombers beat us in an upset, and I've been living it myself ever since.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be it's gonna be one of those games where it's like first to 100 wins. I think. Mind you, it could be like I think actually it'll probably be like both teams will score over 100. It'll be a high scoring game, I think, and I think it'll be a very close margin. Probably, if it was my way, probably like Brisbane 110 to 100 and 102, 103, give or take, like one goal and a few points in it potentially. But yeah, that depends on which version of Joe Danaher and Eric Hipwood decide to show up for us this week. But yeah, it's gonna be yeah.
You are ballsy. I appreciate it, man. I really do. I really, really do. All right, mate. Look, thanks for jumping on. It's been cool. For anyone listening in, if you missed the intro, Egg Footy, you're everywhere basically, but mostly YouTube.
Yeah, bro, YouTube. I'm trying to grow my profile on Twitter and Instagram. I got banned on TikTok after like 2 days, which was
Why is that?
I have no idea. It said multiple violations of the community guidelines, and then like I've only posted one video since making my account. But yeah, that was kind of rude, but you know, it's their loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, mainly YouTube right now. I've been a bit sick the last couple of days, but yeah, I'm trying to like get my video out on time this week, but we'll see. I might have to do another late Friday upload, but hopefully not.
So everyone at home, if you can, and definitely jump on YouTube, have a watch. Egg Footy, can't miss it. It's hilarious from the start to the end. Every single week, another episode happens and goes through every single game of the round. It's hilarious. It's unique. And it's just good to see that there's other people kind of taking some inspiration from it, mate. So look, mate, thank you on behalf of Swans fans. Thank you. Good luck for the rest of the season. Not this weekend, but, and yeah, we'll probably see you in the finals.
Thank you, bro. Same to you. Like, if not Brisbane this year, I hope Swans win it all.
Awesome, mate. Well, thank you. And yeah, we'll chat soon.